we can figure out why people hate Tailwind CSS, we need to know what it is. Tailwind CSS is a fully open source CSS library. It's different from other CSS libraries in that it takes a utility-first approach. While other libraries like Bootstrap provide a bunch of components, allowing you to style things with class names that identify the object, like card, Tailwind CSS takes a completely different approach, where Tailwind CSS class names describe the styles they represent. There are styles for sizing objects, dealing with text, and setting colors, or pretty much anything you would need to style a website. Plus, best of all, everything is responsive by design. At first, this reminds developers of inline styles. It's much better than inline styles as they are well thought out and consistent, creating a better look and feel. Plus, there's a limited set of them as opposed to the entire set of possible styles. However, for many programmers, this brings back the old days before CSS, when it was hard to create a unique website. When CSS came out, sites like the CSS Zen Garden showed how powerful it was. The ability to fully change a website design without touching any of the HTML. And this relied on a clean separation of concerns. So even if they accept that utility classes are not the same as inline styles, they still see it interwoven with the HTML, and they still see extremely long class lists repeated across the code. One common suggestion is to install a VS Code extension to hide these ugly classes. But this simply hides the ugly code. It's still there behind the extension, being copied and pasted over and over, removing the ability to have dry code. A better suggestion might be to combine these utility classes inside the CSS, and then apply a semantic class to the HTML. This cleans up the HTML and makes this specific list of utility classes easier to reuse. But I think a lot of these complaints are missing an important piece of information. Web development has changed drastically since Bootstrap and other libraries have come out. JavaScript frameworks are the leading approach, and they are component-based. Before, you would have HTML buttons littered across your code, and wanted a good way to style all of those elements consistently. Now you have a single HTML button inside of your button component. That JavaScript component is then repeated. So if the HTML has messy CSS, it's not a big deal. The CSS and HTML is never repeated, as it lives with that JS component that just gets pulled in wherever it's needed. So Tailwind CSS is a great choice for building with components. Once you stop thinking about CSS in terms of traditional HTML and in terms of JavaScript components, all of the negatives become positives, and it becomes clear why it's such a popular framework.